everybody. Welcome back to Becoming Next on Scene. I am so excited to be here with the amazing pop culture historian, Nikki Haskell herself. Hi, Nikki. How are you today?
Hi, how are you? Where are you?
I'm in Boston.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm in Los Angeles.
I know. How is it out there right now? I know you said it was a little cloudier today.
It was a little cloudy. We have, you get so spoiled out here because it's 90 degrees every day and sunny. So if it gets a little, cloudy, people get crazy.
It's true. It's so true. It's so funny. People get spoiled. That's what happens.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, in Boston, it's cold. It's like 50 degrees today. So I'm envious of anything.
I'm going back to New York next week. So I guess.
Are you?
Yeah.
That's exciting. So Nikki, please share with my audience, how did you fall into the world of entrepreneurship, being a talk show host? I know you have an awesome stockbroker background. So tell us, first of all, what inspired you to jump and start your own thing?
Well, I was born in Chicago and brought up in Beverly Hills. And I came from an era when women basically, weren't that work oriented. None of my friends ever worked. They got married and had children, and which is what I planned on doing. And so I was never really prepared for the real world, so to speak. I was just going to, get married and have children, live happily ever after. So I got married and divorced. And that in the interim there, I became a real estate broker. My husband was in the real estate business. And I was married and divorced twice to the same person. So the first time that I got divorced, I took $18,000 and ran it into $2 million in the market.
Amazing.
Then I remarried my ex-husband and we moved to New York. And he said to me one day, "Why don't you get a job?" And I thought, why would I want to get a job? But anyway, I thought, well, I was really sort of not qualified to do anything. So I thought, well, I made so much money in the market, maybe I should become a stockbroker. So I called a friend of mine whose father owned a brokerage firm. And I went down and I met with him. I remember going down to Wall Street and seeing all the big buildings and the whole stock exchange and everything. I thought, wow, I'm here. So he said, okay, we'll make you a stockbroker. So I had to go to school. I had to go to the New York Institute of Finance. And so I trained for 6 months and I passed the test. And I moved to a bigger firm, Drexel Burnham. And I was a stockbroker for 10 years. Which was one of the great experiences of all times, aside from the fact that I, unbeknownst to me, was really sort of opening the door and paving the way for women of today. I was really adjusting my life to a point where it gave me so much, it sort of grounded me in a way. It taught me about finance, it taught me about the economy, things that I was all used to going shopping. So I never knew about any of these things,
Right.
But I think it's really important in today's world that knowledge is king. The more you know, the better it is. So the fact that I was so successful at what I did really gave me a backbone to learn a lot of other things as far as business was concerned. So when I quit being a stockbroker, I did that for 10 years. I thought, well, what am I going to do now? Because I was underqualified, overqualified. Because during that period of time when I was a broker, I made a lot of money. And there was really no jobs available. Then Prince Egon von Furstenberg came to me and said that he was doing a celebrity interview show, and he wanted me to be the co-host of the show. So we met the people, we contracted. I went off to the south of France, and I was so excited about the show because I had never really thought about myself being on television. But then again, why not?
Right. Why not? I love it.
Yep. Well, because, when I grew up and up until recently, there were sort of standards. You couldn't do this, you couldn't do that, you couldn't go there. But once reality television shows came in, you could basically do whatever you want. If you wanted to do it, you could do it. So we started the show. Then Egon decided he didn't want to do the show. So they made it my show. And he was my co-host. And I wanted to shoot it on location, and they wanted to shoot it in a studio, and I wanted to shoot it at Studio 54.
Yep, I remember.
So I convinced them to let me do the first show from Studio 54, which was very fortuitous because, Studio was only open for 42 months. I always had a feeling about things. I always overdid everything because I knew one day it was going to be gone, and, I wasn't going to get to go to studio anymore. So I always overdid it. And the show was great. I ended up doing the whole thing by myself. So I shot, produced, hosted, and edited close to 300 episodes that were shot from all over the world. And they're now on Amazon Prime, which is such a reward for me to be able to pick up my iPhone and go into Amazon Prime and see my old shows, my interviews with Andy Warhol and Tony Curtis and Donald Trump. I was the first person to ever interview Donald Trump. And subsequently, I've done over 25 documentaries where they license my footage. So who knew then? You know, you never know what you do at one point in your life that's going to live forever. I mean, who would have ever thought? People kept saying, why don't you just throw all these tapes out? You know, why don't you just throw them all out? And hold on. Would you take it? Okay. And so the show became, it's sort of like evolved by itself. The way that I paid for the show was the clubs used to hire me a Friday night, and I would give a big party with Aegon, and there would be either movie premieres or birthday parties or book parties, whatever it was. So every Friday night we gave, Valentine's Day, Eat Your Heart Out. We started with this club because studio had closed by then. Mm-hmm. And so we started doing it in this club called The Underground. And I was very fortunate. First of all, there wasn't anybody on air except me. And it was such an arcade. They didn't even have a cable guide. You couldn't even find it. You just had to sort of like find the show, So I had the show on 4 times a week at 4 different times. And I did 3 shows a month. And then the 4th, I took the best interviews and put them together and made sort of like a compilation. And the show was very, very successful. I was very lucky. Pan Am became my sponsor, and they gave me free tickets to go everywhere. So cool. I never made any money, but I sure had a lot of fun because I was the first person to put fashion on television. So a lot of the designers gave me their collections. We shot at restaurants. They comped everything. I used the limousine service. They called me the queen of comps, actually.
I love it.
Yeah, the New York Magazine. The New York Magazine wrote an article called "The Queen of Comps."
That's amazing.
So I got everything for free, but I didn't get paid. Remember paid's an interesting concept. Mm-hmm. So in the middle, when we were doing the show, I was always on a diet my entire life. I was always very health conscious. We never had anything fattening in my house. My mother was she put me on a diet at birth. So I was always aware of the diet and health industry. And I created this product called Star Caps, which was the greatest product of all times. And it was a complicated product. It was $100 for a bottle of 30 pills made out of garlic and papaya. It was a digestive enzyme. It took me, I knocked down every door, went through, put the product in everywhere myself. And it became an overnight success. And I did that for 20 years. I had billboards all over Sunset. Here, I'll show you my billboards. Here's one of my billboards.
So cool.
Now, this one, I'll show you this one. This one, wait a minute. This one won the Billboard of the Year award. I'm the first person that created this. Amazing. Now everybody uses it.
Right, the diet pill. Right.
But I was the first person that created that look. In fact, the Hollywood sign has its own logo, which is Klieg lights with the star off the wall. They went crazy when they saw this. They said, "You can't do that. That we own that." And they said to the billboard company, "You have to take that down." He goes, "I'm not taking that down." So it was, so I had 20 billboards all over Sunset for over 20 years. In fact, where I lived at the Sierra Towers, I could see my billboard from my apartment. So I used to have like billboard parties where we would cover the billboard. When I changed it, we have balloons, orange balloons going up. Then everybody would come up to my apartment for a party. So I did that for a long time. And then one day, I got a call saying that 9 football teams, all these teams were doing steroids, and to get rid of the steroids, they would use the Star Cap. So when they got caught, they blamed me, and they put me out of business. They sued me, and they went up to NFL heaven. And of course, there was no way for me to get to all of them. I couldn't afford it, and I ended up having to go out of business, which was so pathetic because the product was so fabulous. So that then what do I do? There I was, sort of in the middle of the whole thing, In the interim, I was very, very involved in the diet and health industry. And I wrote this book, The Star Diet, which is one of the better books of all times. It really gives you everything that you need to know about dieting. So that was fun. And then I invented the Star Cruncher, which is my piece of exercise equipment. It's this belt. It's on Amazon Prime. So it's this belt. It's a belt that goes around your waist, and it has elastic cords, and you work your upper body and your lower body. You can use it for when you walk, and you can use your, I lie down on the floor. If I get really lazy, sometimes I lay down in the bed and do it, put it on my legs and do my leg exercises if I don't feel like going out for a walk. So then I did that. And then, in the interim, Amazon Prime came in, we edited down my shows, which I'm still editing down because it's such a complicated process, but they're on now. There's almost 60 shows on Amazon Prime. And now I have my new invention, the Star Shooter.
Which is so exciting.
This is the Star Shooter.
So
this is a case for your phone, and has a selfie stick. It comes out of the phone like this. It's available on Amazon Prime.
And it goes in different colors too. Yeah, Nikki, show them the different colors.
I'll show you the colors. Let's see.
And for our audio listeners too, just tell them what colors.
So it's pink and white, blue and white.
So
and then you go into your phone, and you pull up your camera, and you look at yourself in the camera, and it has a Bluetooth that you pair with your phone, so you can take a picture every second. And it stands up. That's how I actually started to invent this. I couldn't find anything, you can't see it, but it stands up horizontally and vertically, which is actually how I started to come up with this idea. I couldn't find anything if my phone fell in the sink one more time. So there's no such thing as there's things that you could put your phone in.
Right, but it's
there's
not
little
like
things that come out of the back. And there's all sorts of tchotchkes, but there wasn't anything that really stood up so that I could. And this is long before videos kicked in and everything. And now with Zooming, this is just fabulous.
It's so true.
I Zoom with this all the time. So it's taken me 8 years because nobody could figure out how to make it. It was so complicated, but it's an all-in-one. So it stands up, it lights up, and it turns into this fabulous zooming selfie stick. And it's now available on Amazon Prime. And I'm so fortunate because it's in the Beverly Hills Hotel. I mean, it's an honor to be in the Beverly Hills Hotel. So if you want to call the Beverly Hills Hotel, you can order it from them. It comes gift wrapped in the Beverly Hills Hotel bag, and it's, with a little card and everything, or you can buy it on Amazon Prime. I think it's one of the great products of all times, because when I first invented this, Zooming was a fad. I mean, selfies were a fad. And now selfies are an intricate part of everybody's life.
So true. Can you share some of the statistics you were talking when we chatted prior, like even on your press release, like some of the statistics about selfies? I was like, oh my God.
Okay, in 2020, this was a very low ball estimate. 333 billion selfies will be taken. Snapchat does 2 billion a day.
Insane.
And Instagram does 79 million. So it's a very interesting market because it's not owned by anyone. So it's up to you. It's like a blank canvas. It's up to you to create your own show. It's so amazing to me because I spend so much time. I mean, I remember when I went to Rio de Janeiro the first time, I had to take 150 pieces of equipment and 11 people. Now you can just go with the Star Shooter and shoot the whole thing. And you can edit it in your phone, and you can send it and put it up on the Instagram. I mean, for me, it's like instant gratification. It's something that you never, ever have. When you shoot a movie, it takes you 2-3 years. When you do television shows, it takes a long time. Even though the show was on every week, I had to rush to do it. I had to edit it in the middle of the night. I mean, it was really complicated. But now, with the world, between IGTV and all the different platforms on
TikTok
Facebook and
right,
Instagram,
exactly.
and even look at we're Zooming now.
Mhm.
You know, there are horizons that have evolved from this particular facility that nobody would have even thought of when I came up with it. So now I'm like, I'm at the forefront of technology. I mean, yes, there's a lot of different products out there. There's things for your phone, there's lights, there's tripods, but I mean, this you could get in your purse. You know, it's very light. You could take it with you wherever you go, right there. If somebody, you have to Zoom somebody, you're right there.
Mhm.
And I love Instagram. I'm on Instagram. So this is on Amazon Prime, and my new website, NikkiHaskell.com, is terrific. They put up a lot of my segments from my shows on there. It's got my recipes from the book. All my diet tips are on there. Plus, I do special pieces that you could only find on Instagram and on my Facebook page and on my website page. And so I'm Big Nick BH on Instagram, and I'm at Nikki on Facebook. I mean, who would have ever thought in your lifetime that something like this would happen? I mean, children today don't even realize what we went through
To get to
just
where
to,
we
I
are
mean,
now.
you know, like you just said something now, it takes you 1 second. When you were using typewriters and you had to put in, if you wanted to make a duplicate of something, you had to use carbon paper. And if you made one mistake, you had to start all over again. I mean, it was a disaster. I don't know how anybody ever communicated with each other.
I know, it's so true.
But now because of this facility that use Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and all these things, it's making it so much easier to communicate and create things. It's up to you to create your dream.
It's so
You know,
true.
so many people, I would think, wanted to make a movie or wanted to do a TV show and didn't have any connections, or they had a platform, but they had nowhere to present it. And now you can do anything you want. It's
Anything.
amazing.
Right. With YouTube, especially now, too. YouTube is a huge platform for people.
YouTube, which is owned by Google, are the two largest platforms in the world
Mhm.
because YouTube goes everywhere. I have lots of things on YouTube. I
So
mean, I have a lot of segments
can
from the
you,
Nick.
like, because you've done so much, I'm just so fascinated by this. So, like, tell me, like, a day in the life of you, right?
Oh,
So like, you wake up, like, are you a coffee woman? Like, tell
no.
me all the things.
So
No.
I get up very early, like 5:30 in the
Okay.
morning. I've never had a cup of coffee in my life.
Really? No way.
No, I can't stand the smell of it, and I can't stand the look of it. If it were like shocking pink or something, or a pretty color, I might like it, but to me it looks. Ugh. So I get up usually about 3 days a week. I make myself fresh orange juice and have a hard-boiled egg. My day is so complicated, I can't even tell you the things that I do and the places I go to, and it's an adventure being me.
I love
I
it.
must say, because I get up every morning, put on all my makeup, and get ready for the day. Because you never know who you're going to run into, and I never want to be caught without makeup on. You know, I was in quarantine for. I went down for a week to Palm Springs. I was there for 17 weeks. I was at Leonardo DiCaprio's house with my friend Clive Davis, and it was really a phenomenal experience. But I got up every morning, put on my makeup, and we exercised every morning. My assistant Selah works me out when he can because we just get so busy over here. Because now with the Star Shooter going up on Amazon Prime and getting everything done for that, so I'm working on that. Plus, there's always 10 or then also serializing the story of my life into a television series. It's called. It doesn't have a name yet, but I had written a screenplay, so it's adapted from my screenplay, which was called Overdressed When Naked.
So creative with these names here. They're awesome.
Well, I come up with everything, but
I love
that
it.
came because everybody always says to me, come over tonight and just be casual. I said, I'm overdressed when I'm naked. I mean, I don't even have anything to be casual in. It's just not who I am. So, I mean, I feel much more comfortable wearing a ball gown than wearing a pair of blue jeans.
I get that. I get that. That's awesome.
I think my mother always told me you feel better and do better when you're dressed up.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that statement, definitely.
I don't even own a sweatsuit.
Really?
No, isn't that terrible?
No, not at all. I mean, you got to
They take up too much room.
Oh my God.
No,
Okay.
but I mean, I have exercise clothes, but I don't have sweat clothes,
That's okay.
But it's so it's a full day from morning till night. Plus, I usually go to lunch. And now that we're in the Beverly Hills Hotel, which is, I mean, it's like a dream come true, because I go to the Beverly Hills Hotel. I've been going there since 1956. So it's like my home away from home. Before cell phones, when people couldn't find me, they would just call the hotel looking for me.
That's amazing. That's hysterical.
There's a few restaurants like that. There was one restaurant called Elaine's in New York.
I'm familiar with that place.
That I used to go to all the time. They say, "Oh, there's a call for you, Nikki." You know, somebody calling me from Paris. Like, why are you calling me here?
That's hysterical.
So, but my days are fun. I end up with, I don't know if you follow me on Instagram, but you see that I do something different every day and go something. I really try to get the most out of a day. So I usually, well, now that Selah and I are working so closely on this project, I don't go out for lunch as much as I used to. I used to go out for lunch every day and dinner every night. I hate staying home. To me, staying home is like a punishment. My mother used to say, you never meet anybody dancing in the closet. So why waste your time?
No, that's a great point. That's so funny.
So I like to get up, get dressed, get going. You never know what the day is going to bring. Like today, I've been up since like 6 already. We had to deal with a lot of things this morning. I'm going back to New York for the first time. I don't know what that's going to be like.
It's so quiet. I went recently. It's really quiet.
I'm really not looking forward to it, but
hey, whatever. You got to travel. You got to.
Well, I also live in New York, so I live between New York and Los Angeles, and I haven't been back to New York since last December.
Time flies, man. Right? That's
everybody's life is.
That's crazy.
I don't. Let's say, God forbid, we had this whole situation with this, pandemic, and we didn't have the internet. What would people? They would have really killed each other.
It's so true. It is so true.
So it's an interesting time. And
okay, so Nikki, wait, I want to chime in. Okay, so I want to talk about fun facts about you, because I read your answers and I was like, we need to talk about this.
Okay.
But before we get into that, can you share with everybody how they can, again, get a Star Shooters, get any products, and also follow you on social media?
So the Star Shooter is on Amazon Prime, and so is the Star Cruncher. And at the Beverly Hills Hotel. I think the book is on Amazon Prime too.
I think it is too. I've seen it.
And
how they follow you on social media and your website?
So my website is nikkihaskell.com. I'm at Big Nick, BIGNIKBH on Instagram, and at Nikki Haskell on Facebook.
I love your Instagram name, by the way.
My Instagram, I can't tell you how many people love it. I mean, I do a lot on there. I'm not a Kardashian, but I'm out there.
You're in your own special area, Nikki. You are one of a kind. It is awesome. I love
because I did the show for so many years. I mean, I just love being able to shoot everything and take pictures of everything and post things. And I'm with so many interesting people. I only wish that I had it during Studio 54. Can you imagine?
I know. Oh my God. Crazy.
So amazing.
It wasn't meant to be then, though. It was meant to be now, right? That's what I always say. So.
Right, but then, I mean, I had the show, so that was like a forerunner, I guess, to the whole thing.
Right.
So that worked out great. Okay, everything's worked out great. And during these terrible times that we've had, I have really accomplished a lot. You cannot let the day get the best of you. I get up every morning and I have a little conversation with myself. That today's going to be great. I sort of run through the day, the things that I know that I have to do. And I thank God every morning for being here and being safe and being healthy and being, virtually happy. And of course, nowadays people are only thinking about two things, the virus and the election. So if you can weed your way past those two conversations, then you can, but I mean, when I was down in Palm Springs, I was with quite a few other people, and I got the Star Shooter done, I got the packaging done, I got my script written. So all the things, otherwise I would have been sitting in my apartment alone for 3 months. I would never have gotten anything. I have to work on the buddy system. I have to work with someone because I'm very scattered. I'll start to set my hair, then I'll go into the internet, then I'll come back. I mean, I'm all over the place. Mm-hmm. But if I have somebody with me, I'm much more focused.
I love that. See, so it was meant for you to almost like shift the way you were doing things. And I think that was for everybody. I think that's why COVID happened, because I think the world needed to change there.
I lived through amazing periods of time. Okay. When I was a little girl, my parents took me to nightclubs. So I've been going to nightclubs since I'm like 6 years old. And I lived through a time where we were baby boomers. We went everywhere and did everything. I was a champion horseback rider. I went to Beverly Hills High School. I had a really glamorous, glorious, fabulous life. And now things have changed. I don't know if the kids today will ever have any fun, really have any fun. We lived in a very naive society. There was never anything that ever happened in the United States. Yes, there was World War II and there was all Vietnam and different things. But basically speaking, we lived in a period of time where everything was very great. The sun was shining and people were driving around and everything. And now it's much tougher. I don't know how kids today can maneuver, through the muck and mire. And I don't know whether they have any fun anymore. I don't know how much fun you can have.
I know, true, because everything's so limited with how much you can even do in general. Even for adults, it's for everybody, I think.
But there's nothing to do. You can't go to the movies. You can't go to the theaters. You can't have parties. You can't be. I was never a watch television person to begin with. I watch it at night when I come home. I watch the news or whatever. But I couldn't sit. I don't know how these people sit all day in front of the television and watch Fox or CNN. I would go crazy. I can't stand to watch those shows.
I have to say, I love your ring, by the way. I keep eyeing it. I love it. It's so awesome.
I found it in the drawer. I haven't seen it in years. I was cleaning out the drawer.
It's so pretty. To our audio listeners, it's like a beautiful turquoise flower. It's like really fun.
I'm very into flowers. This dress looks like the wallpaper at the Beverly Hills Hotel.
I love it. So Nikki, can we play some game time and talk about like all the other awesome interests and hobbies you have? I feel like
I would love it.
World full of knowledge. So obviously you were a horseback riding champion, which is so impressive. So when did you do this?
So I started when I was a little girl. I started when I was about 9 years old. And I loved it. I had 6 show horses. I rode American saddlebreds, open stake horses. And it was one of the great learning experiences. And also when people ask me, where did I become so positive and so bold and so focused? And it was really from horseback riding, because it taught you to be alert. It taught you to be, you're on a 2,000-pound horse. And I had this gigantic horse. And one thing is when you ride through the park, that's not what it is. I had to train every morning. I had to go to the stables when I was a little girl. My father would drive me to the stables. I would work my horses out. I would go back to school. After school, I'd come down and ride the horses again, pick me up and take me home. So that became my entire life until I was about 13 years old. And then my father was in an automobile accident and we decided to move to California. And unfortunately, the day that I started the 8th grade, my father died. And the first thing that went were the horses. I went, that's it for the horses, out. So that was the end of the horse story. But it came at a really good time, because once I got into high school and things like that, I don't know if I would have had enough time to do everything I did and ride.
But it was a huge part of your childhood.
A major part.
Yeah.
It was a major part of my childhood.
You into like who you are, which is so
But
inspiring.
It really did. It teaches you control. Mm-hmm. It teaches you to be focused. And more than anything, it makes you fearless. You are there. It's you and that horse. And you have to adjust yourself. And I was, I'm not that big now. But my horse was gigantic, and I was showing against men and women that were 35 years old, 20, and I was like 10, 11 years old. So it makes you just, I'm basically quite fearless. I don't do things that are stupid, like bungee jumping or things like that. I have my standards. If I can't do it in high heels, I'm not interested. So it protects me from a lot of things, stupid things, not doing stupid things.
I know. I just think I was just going to say, I think you've created such a good mold for women, because I was just even thinking like, so you're talking about that scenario. And then the scenario you also told me about, like you walking into the bar when it was all men in the stock market.
Well, hold on one second. Selah, can you turn the volume up on this a little bit for me? I'm having a problem hearing you. Hold on a second.
No worries.
We're sort of a makeshift studio around here.
That's okay.
Keep talking.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
Okay.
Thanks.
So did you hear the last thing I said, or you want me to repeat it?
No, I mean, yes, please repeat it.
Yeah, no worries. I was just saying you've just created such a great mold for women, because when you talk about like competing against all of these men and women that are older and much more experienced, I'm also thinking about the scenario you told me when you walked into the bar in the stock market and it was all men, and you were like, I'm Nikki, I'm gonna just sit down. And
well, it was a very interesting time, because I was among the first 5 female stockbrokers on Wall Street, and all the restaurants said men only. It didn't say no women. It just said men only. I thought, well, that doesn't mean me. And I was with one particular hot restaurant at the time, and they all knew me, and I sat with all the heavy hitters. They didn't put me in the back. They put me right at the best table. I demanded to be treated with respect. And you have to do that. You can't let people push you around. One of the great weapons of all times is fear. If people are afraid of you, they won't take advantage of you quite as much. You have to be careful. If somebody says, trust me, you know they're going to screw you immediately.
You are giving such great inspiration, like super inspiring words of wisdom here, by the way. So
I mean, you have to really, look, everybody's circumstances are different. Some are married, some are alone. I find today, I would have assumed that the young women of today would have been so much more ahead of the curve as far as being secure and being positive and knowing what direction they're going in. I don't find that at all. I find actually that I don't know if it's the internet or the family things or schools. I mean, I don't remember bullying. I mean, I'm sure somebody must have gotten bullied when I went to school. I wouldn't, and people have tried to bully me over my lifetime, but I don't let them. I don't let anybody push me around. Not going to happen. You have to be strong. You can't. And another thing is, I don't know if this is the good news or the bad news, but I never really. For instance, when I did the show, I never asked anybody, should I do this? I don't have any experience. Do you think? I just did it. If you ask 20 people what you should do, they're all going to tell you shouldn't do it.
Right.
You have to learn how to live out your own dreams. You can't let people stomp on your dreams. Don't let anybody take them away from you. You have to live them out. Listen, we're only here while we're here. And you have to make every minute count. I mean, I have nieces and nephews. I try to convey to them that you have to really start young, because it takes so long to get anything accomplished. I mean, look how long school takes. By the time you get out of school, half of your life is gone.
Right.
It is. So I mean, I never went to college. I was a really bad student. Somehow I made it. I don't know if college would have made any difference in my life. The fact that I was a stockbroker really was, I believe in on-the-job training. I mean, if you want to do something, just do it. If you want to be an actress, do plays, do things that you're involved in. Don't wait to do something. Don't say, well, I'd like to lose 5 pounds. I'll see how I feel. Just do it.
Right.
Do everything you want to do. Set your goals, and now you can do whatever you want. It's up to you. It's up to you to decide what you want to do and how you want to perceive your life. I mean, everybody always yelled at me, don't you think you're going to too many parties and going to too many places? See, I was like disco obsessed. I only wanted to go dancing every night of my life. I mean, I still do, but there's no place to go anymore.
I know.
There's this fabulous club in LA that I love. I can't wait till they reopen it, called Giorgio's. And it's sort of like frozen in time. It's like a little Studio 54. And I go there all the time and dance. I just love it more than anything. And I mean, I never missed a minute. I have no regrets on how I lived my life. I didn't wait to do anything. I'll never forget when I had my television show. I mean, that was by far the most exciting thing that I've ever done, because I got to go everywhere and meet everyone. But it was up to me. I had to create the palette that it worked around. Plus, since there wasn't anybody but me, it was like the good news, bad news. I got to go to places that nobody got to go to because there wasn't anybody but me. You either got me or you got no one. And Rogers and Cowan, Warren Cowan, was like the godfather of the Nikki Haskell Show. And he would say that he represented a lot of dictators. So he would send me with Madame Marcos, who I became friendly with immediately. Okay, was a lifelong friend of mine. And I was friendly with President Marcos. And then I did a big thing for Reverend Moon. He did a movie in Cannes called Inchon. And we went to Incheon and we covered that. And then I went to Chile and I interviewed Pinochet, which was, he was a mass murderer.
Insane.
The dictators always liked me.
Right. You always knew how to like be professional, get your foot in the door and get what you needed. Get whatever you wanted and needed. That's amazing.
To me, no is a soft yes.
I love it. I love that phrase. Seriously, that's
but
so
it's true. People keep saying, I have a tendency, sometimes you have to back off. If somebody says no, you back off and let them think that it's their idea. I can be, I'm accused of being very pushy, but you know what? You're either pushy or you're not in business.
It is so true.
If you're a man, you're assertive. If you're a woman, you're pushy.
I like those phrases. That's so true, though. I feel like I've heard that so much. That's so valid.
It's true.
Yeah.
The people, and they'll tell you, oh, you shouldn't be like that. I mean, nobody's like that. Well, it doesn't make a difference to me that nobody's like that. What do I care?
It's so true.
I don't pattern myself after anyone else. I pattern myself. I make my own pattern. I do what I want.
Right. You lay your own bed and then you handle it how you want.
That's right. I do exactly what I want to do. The only person I have to answer to is me.
I like that.
And it's difficult. Life is very complicated. I mean, it's less complicated for me because I don't have any children and I don't have any parents. And so I have it's easier when you have children, it's very complicated. And I don't have any pets. So I'm ready to go anywhere at any time.
And just jump and reach for the stars, Nikki, always. I love it.
Yeah, but it was so perfect during the quarantine. Clive Davis called me on Saturday and said, I'm going to go to Palm Springs. Would you like to come? I was out the door at 9:00 the next morning, packed and ready to go. So most people would have hemmed it up. Well, maybe I'll come next week. I'll have to think, got to go do this. I was right there, right, Johnny on the spot. I can be ready to go black tie in 5 minutes.
That's like a talent.
That's what you have to be. I'm always camera ready.
Right. Oh my God, that's so impressive. Okay, wait, I want to play game time. So what's Nikki Haskell's favorite food?
My favorite food? I love Mexican food.
Me too. What's your go-to Mexican meal?
Tacos and I like tacos and enchiladas.
I like it.
But I have it so infrequently because there's not a great place out here.
Really?
And it's fattening, so I don't eat it too often.
It's worth it.
I eat a lot of artichokes and things like that.
Okay, still. That's great choice. Are you a margarita girl too?
I have my own drink. It's called a Nicotini. It's Grey Goose orange vodka with club soda and a slice of orange. But I've had a margarita or two in my life.
I'm sure. I like your classic own name one. That's amazing. That's great.
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome.
I name everything after me.
I love it. Branding, Nikki. It's all about personal branding. This is fantastic.
Yes, you have to. I mean, I created the Star brand. I had Star Caps. I had Star Shooter. I had the Star Candy Company, right? I had Star Suckers and Star Bars and the Star Cruncher. So that's my brand. It just happened that way. I mean, it didn't start out like that.
No, where did the star come from? The word. Like what is
star is star in any language.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was when I first had my product Star Caps, they were called Tone Caps before that, and what there was like a different strain, so I started putting gold stars on the bottles, right? So you could tell one from the other, and people started calling it Star Caps. So I just changed the name from Tone Caps to Star Caps.
I love it. Very well.
And it changed the whole complex of the way it looked, the way it acted, the way people reacted to it. Mm-hmm. There's a certain cachet that was very appealing, and that's how it happened.
So cool. All right, love those answers. Now, where is Nikki's favorite place you've ever traveled, and what is a place you've never been to that you want to go?
Oh, there's a lot of places that I haven't been to. I'm like a creature of habit. I end up going to the same places over and over again. My absolute favorite place, of course, is Saint-Tropez and the south of France, all through this Monte Carlo and through Italy. But I would love to go to Egypt because, every Jewish girl thinks that she's reincarnated Cleopatra.
It's so true. It's so true.
So everybody says, who do you think you were in your other life? Well, I was definitely Cleopatra.
100%.
Yeah.
That's a great answer.
So, but I've never been to Egypt. I'm sorry and I've never been to Israel. They're two places I'd like to go to. Actually, I'd like to go to a lot more places, but I don't think that nowadays there's a lot that's going to happen. Yeah, that's why you have to do everything when you're young.
Well, I think when you have the opportunity and it presents itself, you just got to do it, right? Is that the answer?
I'm a firm believer. Don't say there's no putting off life. You have to live every day. Make sure it counts. Because it goes by so fast. You never know what'll happen. Look what's happening now. What kind of insanity are we living through?
So true. Okay, this is going to be such an interesting question to hear from you. So, you have met so many celebrities, so many people throughout your lifetime. If you could spend a day with somebody you have not met, dead or alive, who would you choose and why?
Probably be either Robert Redford or Brad Pitt.
Cool. So for what reason? Because you've met so many people. So why those two?
Well, I actually met Brad Pitt a couple of times, but I mean, I should be a lot more philosophical and say Einstein or Picasso and I'd love to meet all of them. Actually, I'm sorry that I didn't get a chance to interview them because I've been painting and drawing since I'm a little girl. So I'm very vested in the art world, which I think is so important for people to understand our history through art. So for me, even though I wasn't a great student, I was an art major and I studied art history. And that's why I like when you go to Rome and you see all the ruins and you go to Egypt and how life is. I don't even know how did they get around in those days?
I know.
How did Napoleon get his letters to everybody? He wrote 100 letters, 1,000 letters. Was supposed to be in battle. Was he writing letters the whole time? It takes me a week to write a letter.
Seriously, right?
And how did they ever get there? Who ever took them? The mails don't even work now. How would you expect that? I find it all fascinating.
It really is, though. It really is. That's so great answers. Great spectrum all over the board. Well, you are amazing, Nikki. Thank you so much for coming on today. Can you tell us again how people can follow you through your website, through social media, and on Amazon Prime?
So I'm on Instagram at Big Nick BH. I'm on Facebook at Nikki Haskell. My website, my new website is great. I love my new website, NikkiHaskell.com. And of course, you can get my products on Amazon Prime. Star Shooter is my new favorite product. It's a limited edition, and they're really selling like crazy. So get your Star Shooter today. Don't forget.
And also, Nikki, we didn't talk about briefly. Aren't you doing something with PBS right now, or you were just on PBS?
Well, I did a couple of shows on PBS. There was a Frontline, which is on PBS, which ran about 2 weeks ago. It was a documentary. It was called Choice 2020. And what had happened was, originally it was called Choice 2016 for the first election. So I did an interview about Donald Trump, and they licensed my footage. I get $5,000 a minute for my footage, and I don't do a documentary unless they license my footage, because otherwise you do all these documentaries for free.
Right.
You got to do your hair. It takes a whole day for sure.
It really does, I'm sure.
And so they recut it and they put it on last week on PBS. So they ran it again. Plus, I just did a documentary on Cindy Adams. And that same week I did one on Donald Trump for German television, and they just came back to me again. They want me to do another series of shows, and my catalog has become so great. And you have to watch the Nikki Haskell Show.
I know, I love the episodes.
There's seasons 3, 4, and 5 are up now. We had to redo seasons 1 and 2, so there'll be 50. There's 50 shows that are up, and by the time I finish, there'll be over 100 shows up. Amazing. And you asked me the people that I interviewed, who are my favorite interviews. Well, I would have to say the most complicated interview, the hardest one to get, was, because it's up to you as an interviewer. Most of the time, you've got to get that interview. Was with Madame Marcos when I went to the Philippines. That was the greatest. They said, no, you'll never get a chance to interview Madame Marcos. That'll never happen. You've got to go directly to her. How's that going to happen? So the first day, when I was shooting, I commandeered the Philippine, like Good Morning the Philippines. I commandeered their film crew, and I did all the interviews that day. Jeremy Irons and Tony Curtis and all these things. And Madame Marco saw it. It was on the 6 o'clock news. And she came in and she walked up to me, said to me, "Are you Nikki Haskell?" I said, "Yes." She said, "You come with me." But even with that, I had to still, really, I had to go to her personally and ask her if I could interview. And I was the only one that got an interview with her.
That's
and
amazing.
I have the last interview with Peter Sellers that I shot from the Hotel de Cap, which is fabulous. And of course, I was always in love with Tony Curtis, who I ended up becoming really close friends with. And I have a delicious interview with him. And Gene Kelly and Andy Warhol. I have great, fabulous, fun interview with Andy Warhol because I paint. I've been painting all my life, and he was a major influence in the art world. That whole contemporary art world was my favorite of all times. And of course, there's nothing like that now. The art market has changed. The music market has changed. There's no new music. There's no there's new art. There's new everything, but it doesn't really crack up to, up to that period of time. The 80s was an amazing time. And I was so fortunate that I got to capture it with my show.
So awesome.
It was great.
Really, like you got highlights and people like that are just so hard, that people think are hard to come by, which is so inspiring. Like truly,
But see, what happened was when we went on the air, nobody ever wanted to come on cable. It was like a dirty word. They went, "Ooh, cable," like that. So I had to figure out a way to skin the cat. Because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to interview celebrities and do exactly what I did. So I made sure that I went to film festivals where there were a lot of people that are selling their products. They were looking for you to interview them. And then I used to go to because I love race cars, I used to go to the Grand Prix. And of course, fashion shows were always my passion. So I was the first person to put any of them during a time, because the 80s was the most important time for American designers. Because that's when Calvin and Halston and Oscar de la Renta and all the American designers came into being standalone names. Prior to that, all fashion was out of France. So it was an amazing time for music. I mean, I had such a cross section of from Rick James, to President Marcos. I mean, so I was friendly with everyone. So it was, and the show just gave me an entree to everything.
It really did. It was like the door opener, basically.
Totally.
Right?
Somebody said the only doors that open for you were the ones you smashed down.
I love it. That's a great phrase. That's a really good phrase.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I like that.